Hey guys, welcome back to another one. So today I'm going to be showing you how to actually clean a beaver skull. So this can be related to raccoon skulls, muskrats, coyotes, basically all skulls you can do just like this one. I did have it frozen because I didn't want to do it right away. So what we will actually do is I just had it in a plastic bag here. As you can see, still completely frozen. Not going to show too much of it right now. You'll put it in the water with the crock pot on low. You don't want it to boil, basically. You want it to be a nice slow simmer. So I'm starting this pretty early. It's about 1 o'clock. I probably should have started it even sooner, but I know I'm going to be up later tonight anyways. So it'll work just fine for me. That gives it plenty of time to completely get all that meat cooked and for it to start falling off. You want it to basically be like a roast you left in the crock pot all day. It just pulls apart nice and easy, able to rip off all that stuff. So I'll actually go ahead, I'll take the skull. So if you actually had it completely not frozen, you would be able to go ahead and actually cut off some chunks of the meat that are extra. And for you guys to see those big old chompers right there. So this is off of about a 30 to 40 pound beaver. So it's a decent sized skull. Bigger than my fist, probably 2. I don't know. So gonna be a nice looking skull. We'll have it in there. We'll put some water, and I'll actually put some, so this is actually Dawn dish soap. We just put it in this. We'll put this in here. There's a lot of fatty tissue inside the head. So the dish soap will actually help to kind of gelatinize it. Easier to pull off. It's not so slimy basically. So we'll have that. We'll completely fill this up with water now. And it's just going to be a nice, slow time. I'm going to try not to hit the dish soap too much so it doesn't bubble up on us here. So this is basically going to be like a roast that you threw in your crock pot, right? But the only difference is it's going to have a little dish soap smell to it. Depending on who you live with and your comfort level, this crock pot you can still use, but in my case, I know my fiance wouldn't necessarily like having crock pot that has had beaver heads, raccoon heads, muskrat heads, coyote heads, squirrel heads in it, and also put our regular food in there. So where some people might be okay with it, crock pots are about 20 bucks. This one was on sale. I think it was only like 15 bucks. It doesn't matter for me, just to have, you know, happy wife, happy life kind of thing. So instead, I just went ahead and bought her a brand new crock pot. Actually, pretty nice one. We have some pork chops rolling in there. So yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll give this probably 4 hours and then I'll come and check it with you guys. Most likely it's going to take 6 to 8 just because it is frozen. And then we'll kind of go from there with it. We are back here. I went ahead, turned it off, let it cool down a little bit so I'm not boiling my hands off. And we should be good. As I was doing this, I even noticed that some was falling off on its own. I am wearing gloves right now just because I do have a couple cuts on my hands, so I don't feel like getting those all messed up if we don't have to. So we'll go ahead and let it drain off a little bit. Take it out of the crock pot. I just have a cutting board here to set it on. And you can, I just pulled that right off. So the bottom jaw is almost actually completely clean already, just from that simple pulling off. And then the jaw itself is connected by those two front teeth. Kind of interesting there. So right down the middle is just a bunch of cartilage holding that bottom jaw together. So that went ahead, came off into two separate pieces. We'll get those all cleaned up, and then we have the top, which we'll go ahead and get all the meat off of as well. We got the bottom beaver jaw, and then we got the actual beaver head right here. What I'm going to be using is just these metal tongs, my hands, and then just a spoon. You don't use a knife, so then you don't cut into the bone at all, since it is kind of fragile right now, since it just came out of a, not a boil, but a hot simmer for quite a while. We'll go ahead and time lapse this. So once we're done with this, I'll go ahead, get all this out of the crock pot, and then refill it with hydrogen peroxide and water. That's what will make this nice and white. And then we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. So this is a great way to make those catches of raccoon, beaver, muskrats, coyotes, you name it, and get a little extra money out of them. So not only are you selling their fur, their glands, you're also able to sell their skull and any other parts that you're actually going ahead and using. So this beaver, for instance, not only am I going to clean up the skull, but we're also using the pelt, we're also using the glands, or yeah, the castor, and then we're using the oil sacs out of it as well, and then you can use the meat on it for either personal consumption, or you can also use it for bait, because a lot of things eat beavers, a lot of things like beavers as well. So bunch of different ways that you can go ahead and make money off of your animals. You just gotta think outside the box a little bit. This is a great way if you have 20 bucks to spend, 15 bucks even, on a crock pot. You get one of these, you're able to do all the skulls all on your own. You buy $1 worth of peroxide from the store, dump it in there, boom, you're already almost there. And then you just have to go over it with what I'm going to be using today is Mop and Glow. You basically brush that on. It keeps it, it basically seals it in, so it stays nice and looks presentable. So yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. We went ahead, got all of the meat off of the beaver skull, so it's nice and clean. Got any cartilage or anything on the teeth. Usually there's a little bit in between that you gotta make sure about. So the bottom jaw is ready to go. And then the main thing is the main head that you have to make sure. You have to tear out all of those basically like mini bones in there and like cartilage and all that. You should be able to see through this hole all the way through the nose. Just like that. So until you can see all the way through, you know that you haven't gotten all of it. And then obviously the cranium, you gotta make sure that that is all clean as well. So this is all ready to go. What we're gonna be using is just some hydrogen peroxide that you get from the store. I'd set that down for us. And you don't want to do this inside your house, like your main living area, because it will make some, or it could make some not so good gases. Doesn't smell too good. So I'm just in our unheated mudroom that we're able to just open up to outside. It is only about 36 degrees out, so just trying to keep it from being completely outside due to it'll make this process take a lot longer. So we got the top off and we'll dump it in. Just like that. So there isn't enough to completely cover it, so I'll probably go get a bottle full of this, of just regular water, dump it in there. They'll bring it up enough to cover it. So this is only, 3.5% peroxide. So once you dilute it by another bottle, it's only about 1.5. So it'll take quite a while to do it, but we have it on high. We'll go ahead, check it every hour, see how it happens, and yeah, continue to keep this going. They have been in for about 2.5 hours or so. Bubbling very nice. Just let all that gas escape without me smelling it. Let's take a look here. So you can see that bone looking very nice, very white. Let's take a look at the other half of the bottom jaw here. Very white as well. And then lastly, the most important part, the top. I'll get it pulled out here. And this is looking nice and presentable as well. So I'll probably go ahead, leave it in there for a little bit longer, and then I'll go ahead, take it off, and let it dry overnight. And then tomorrow we can actually go ahead and put the final product on there for the Mop and Glow, and that should make it where it seals it in very nice and should be ready to go. We got the skull all dried off. We will be gluing it next. I have some JB Weld super glue, just the super glue I had on hand. Works really well. If you have normal super glue, it will work as well. We will first be doing the bottom jaw here. Since it breaks off into two pieces, they're actually only connected by cartilage in between, so that's why they fall apart. And we will be gluing these contact points right here on this bone, on each one. And then once we're all done, it will kind of look like this for us. And then we will go ahead and actually glue it onto the skull. So if you don't know exactly where to put it, don't worry, the bottom teeth always go in and behind the front teeth rather, just like this, and then just line up the molars so those work as well. And they just fit right into these points right here, and then the molars will be connected. So that's probably where we're going to be also putting some super glue once we get to that point. But for right now, we're just going to get the bottom glued together and go from there. We are at almost the final step besides gluing the two pieces together. So the actual jaws and the main skull. This part, what we'll be doing is actually finishing off the coating on it, and we will just be using mopping glue. So this is just a good protection for it. Gives it a fresh citrus scent. Didn't see that when I bought it, but oh well. At least it'll smell better than hydrogen peroxide, so it doesn't really matter. After you do the hydrogen peroxide, you wash it off, but it still retains that kind of smell. So this should help dull it down. This just helps cover that bone, protect it, keeps it from yellowing and all that. So the skull is all finished drying with the super glue. Might put a second coat in there just to really adhere it together, and then probably a little bit in between the actual bottom jaw. But other than that, I think we're pretty much good. This is ready to be a nice little mount for whoever you sell it to or anything like that, if you keep it as well. Sometimes they are a little bit more yellow right around this area and right around here. But if that does happen and if it does bother you, you can put it in a container full of acetone for a couple days and it will draw out all that oil. That's all that is just yellowish oil. Acetone will draw it right out, which will make it nice and white again. But yeah, other than that, we should be pretty much all good. If you guys have any questions or any comments, feel free to leave it down below. And always, if you want to see anything else, leave it down there as well. Thanks for watching.